welcome everyone. I thought I would start a little bit with sort of why I decided to do this. I've never done a free webinar in the years that I've been working. Really, my purpose has always been around helping people to become financially well. And in this time, what I've really realized is that what people really need is information that is relatable and that's helpful, and do it in a way that's free, that I can't help everyone individually one-on-one. That would have taken way too long, and everyone needs the information as quickly as possible. So I decided to do a series of webinars. There are 5 Wednesdays in April. So there will be 5 webinars, and then we'll see what happens after. This is an opportunity for me to kind of serve you, and an opportunity to do what I love to do, which is share information around the financial side of either our business or our personal life. And so we'll be talking a lot. So everybody should be muted upon entry. I will talk for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So last week was all about personal finance. This week is going to be all about small business. And then I'll rotate between. Next week will be about investing, as a lot of the public markets, a lot of us own stocks or retirement portfolios and have been hit. What do we do then? And then the week after that will be, again, small businesses around cash flow planning, really a workshop for you guys regarding how do we look at cash flow and really properly plan for now and the future. And then the week after that will be personal finance budgeting. So I know some of you guys had some different questions around personal finance, so I encourage you to continue to join these webinars in the future. So just a little bit of background about myself for those of you who have never met me before, have maybe heard about me or see my face popped up somewhere or the other. So basically my professional career has been working in the startup tech land. I have been basically a CFO for the last 20 years, taking companies from inception. I have an idea, what do I do? To Series B, with the last company being a software tech company. And I raised a $21 million round with them. And so after that, I decided that it was time to serve a different population. And what I realized is that there's a lot of small business owners who need that same type of knowledge that venture capital companies can afford, but not necessarily for small business owners. And also equally on the personal side. People really need a lot of support in a very compassionate and very loving way, not the usual sort of judgmental, you should have done that yesterday way. And so that is my general approach, is to be able to bring information that is digestible, that is in a very helpful manner, because we all know that, there's XYZ amount of things we all should have done yesterday, but for some reason we haven't gotten there yet. So I usually pair a lot of mindset aspects with technical tools to get over whatever the limitation in your mind or technically, then to push you and your businesses into a better future. So that's a little bit about myself. A lot of you have submitted in that sign-up sheet of sort of what is on your mind when it comes to your finances. And really, a lot of it has been around this loan. We keep hearing about it. News is talking about it. All of your friends who own small businesses are talking about it. So I'm going to spend a good amount of time really talking about it, and then how to apply. What does this mean for your business? So basically, as you guys have known by now, on March 27th, they passed this thing called the CARES Act. And it's the $2 trillion package that essentially our government has passed to help us in this whole virus situation that is going on right now. And really what has started as a health crisis has now turned into a financial crisis, right? As all of you are here and are probably really aware of that at this point. And so where did this $2 trillion go, right? And so it went to 5 different buckets, but notably $560 billion are going to individuals. And so what does that mean? That means that you might have heard that there's a stimulus check. If you earned less than $75,000 as basically as of your last tax return, you will receive the entire $1,200 per adult in your household and $500 per child. And so basically though, what happens is, they start phasing out after 75,000. It's like up to like basically $99,000, then you don't get the stimulus check. Okay, but there is a huge amount going to this individual side. So there's a stimulus check that you guys have heard about. Supposedly, we are getting that sometime in the 3rd week of April, and supposedly it's coming into the bank account that you have on file with the IRS if you've ever received a refund or if you've ever paid electronically, okay? Then there is the federal unemployment. So part of the $560 billion is going to the unemployment insurances across all states. So if you're in California, I don't know about any other states, but roughly the national average you get per week is $340. In California, it's $450. I think in Texas is around the same. So on top of that, what the federal government has decided to is add $600 on top of that amount. So if you were getting a national average of $340, you're getting $600 on top of that. So $940 a week. So part of the stimulus package is really to do that. And on top of that, they're extending the unemployment time. So basically, usually it caps out at some, depending on your state, it caps out at a certain period of time. And so what they did is they're going to extend that timeline. So let's say you were already on unemployment and you were right at the end of your unemployment and you really can't find a job at this point. They're going to extend that unemployment for 13 more weeks. So essentially covering a lot of people in the state of California, it's roughly 26 weeks, which is half a year. And then you're going to get 13 weeks on top of that. And so that then the next portion, really the 2 portions are, 1, they're going to have a pandemic unemployment assistance for gig workers and freelancers. So if you are, and this is a little bit confusing because I'll talk about the next program, but basically in the state of California, when you go apply for unemployment as a W-2 employee, usually are the only ones that are available, right? Because you have to pay into the system for the system to have a benefit to pay you. They're basically trying to waive all of that, all of those requirements so that freelancers and gig workers can actually apply for unemployment. In California, I know, but basically at the end of that application, there's one little box that you check that says, yes, I am a gig worker or a freelancer. I haven't seen how this has worked. This, I think, is almost the last portion that hasn't really been worked out, right? Because as you can see, information is coming out on the daily. There are so many, so, what I say today, right, could be clarified more tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. But what they're doing in the government is trying to give as much guidance as they can. So they're coming out with like Q&As, like just came out on Monday. They're coming out with, FNQs, all kinds of supporting documents around this 600-page CARES Act. And so the other thing is your tax returns. If you have, they were due April 15, as we all know, that deadline, it's been extended to July 15th. So we all have a little bit more breathing room when it comes to that. And what they did is, it's great they moved the deadline versus just moving because what the deadline also has is if you are owed, if you had to pay taxes, right now you don't have to pay until July 15th. So they're trying to relieve everyone who has to pay for taxes until July 15th, right? But if you are typically owed taxes, so you get a refund of some sort, still file, because you will get money back, right? So the government is really trying to get money into the systems, right? And so the reason I cover like so much about individuals, because I know that small business owners is really money, right, that we earn from our business and go straight to our individuals. So understanding some of these aspects, and you might have gig workers or freelancers that you're trying to understand, like, how do I help them out, right? Because we are obviously really kind and nice people, and we want to make sure the people who have worked for us continue to be cared for, even if we're not the ones that are able to do that. So again, $560 billion of the $2 trillion act is going into individuals. And then the next portion, which is a really big one for all of you guys that are here talking about small businesses, is the 377. So part of the 2 trillion also goes to small business. So this is where a lot of us have been hearing a lot of different information. So $377 billion is going to help small businesses, right? The government understands that really it's the small businesses that are going to be really hurt in this time, because typically we haven't had the, let's just say, the skill set or the time to focus on profitability or saving for ourselves, for the company in a rainy day, right? And so how does that break down? Roughly $10 billion is going into an emergency grant. That is $10,000 each. So if you have not applied for that at this point, I would highly encourage you to apply. This is a $10,000 grant. The application is on the SBA website. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to infuse small business owners with cash right now. Their promise was roughly a 3-day turnaround. Of course, we know there's no way they could have gotten funds into, I see Kerr shaking your head. There's no way the government can get into, get up, really process the amount of demand that it has right now. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. We should still apply. And as soon as I know I've gotten mine, I'm certainly going to share that on my Instagram. But roughly what they're trying to do, right, is they understand that we're applying for all these loans, but business has been impacted already, right? If you're a gym owner, you've had to close your doors. If you are an esthetician, or if you are a chiropractor, if you are any of these things that weren't considered essential during this time, they're going to be essential, once the world opens up again. But they're trying to infuse small businesses with cash right away. And so that actual application is on the SBA site. It was a 5-minute process. And at the very end, it asks you, are you asking for the $10,000 loan grant? And you just click that button and you move forward, okay? You enter your bank information and it moves on. So basically that's $10,000 that right now would be maybe considered a loan, but what they're trying to do is figure out if they can actually grant all of that money so it's free. What they're going to do though is they're focusing, because what they're doing right now is they're focusing on the $350 billion that they have allotted out of this $2 trillion for what they're calling the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP. So this is where everyone's been hearing lots of conflict information. So the act passed on the 27th, and everyone heard the application was going to open on April 3rd, which is last Friday. And as we all know, there is no way the banks were able to open application. They have to update all of their tech so quickly that, I had, all my clients log on Friday. None of them were really available, right? And so right now, everyone is logging on every day. And Chase finally opened up their application. Wells Fargo finally opened up their applications, okay? So let's talk about what this program actually is and what is intended to do. So basically, this payroll protection program, payroll is in its name. So what they're trying to do is infuse money into small business owners so that they are able to retain their workers, so that those workers don't have to go on unemployment, right? And so basically what they also want to do is they want you to at least use all of that money, if not at least 75% of that money for payroll, right? Or rent or mortgage if you own the building. And basically the application is from now till the end of June. So if you're a small business owner or a sole proprietor, the application is now open. If you are an individual contractor or self-employed, the application does not open until April 10th, which is next week. So why, what is truly, truly important about this particular loan is that there's all this information around the forgiveness aspect, right? So what they're trying to say is we will forgive this loan if you use and can prove that you use the money for payroll. And even if you have let go of people, they want you to rehire them so those people get off on unemployment as soon as possible, right? And what they're doing, so SBA is actually not a bank. So they are unable to actually give you the money. So what they're doing is working through all of the lenders, right? So there's usually an SBA approved lender, and now almost every bank that I know is actually able to do this. And so what is really, really important is the lender that you work with. So for most small businesses, we work through Chase, we work through Bank of America, Wells Fargo. There are some national banks that First Republic is also another one that small businesses tend to go to. So you apply there first. And the reason being is you already have a banking relationship. They know who you are. They have your EIN. They have all of your background. And they're really trying to, basically the lenders are on the hook for this particular program, right? So the terms are, it's a 1% fixed rate, much lower than any line of credit that you can get at this point, right? Any line of credit you're getting is roughly around 6-7% at this point. There's no payment for 6 months, and it's not due until 2 years from now, right? And so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, I want to get this money into the hands of the people that really need it, and then their workers, right? And so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, it's your average monthly payroll times 2.5. So they're really only giving you a loan. Let's say if you're $10,000, right, 2.5, that would be $25,000. So they're basically trying to portion amount based on your average monthly payroll. And so for those that are sole proprietors, so sole proprietors are LLC incorporated with just you. There's no one else that you are considered a sole proprietor. There is a lot of questions around, because the documents that you need, right, are your tax returns, your 2019 tax returns, If you're an LLC, you should have already filed those. If you are an S Corp or LLC checked as an S Corp or taxed as an S Corp, your deadline was March 15th before all of this happened. So you probably already filed your 2019 tax return. They're asking for 2019 personal tax return. They're asking for payroll reports. They're asking for a W-3, which I have no idea what that even is. But they're basically trying to get an understanding of, well, how much is your payroll? So they can essentially say, okay, I'm gonna give you 2.5 times that. So first, what I'm getting a lot of question on is, well, I'm a sole proprietor. I haven't filed my taxes. I don't really pay myself regularly. So what does that mean? That means that you are going to give them numbers as if you had already filed your 2019 taxes, right? So if you look at your profit and loss statement, and basically you have to look at the average of your last 12 months of taxable net income, okay? And so the timing is very, very interesting. So they're basically saying you take an average of the last 12 months, and they're considering January 31st is the last month. So it's really February 1st through January 31st. So what is your average taxable income as during those 12 months? Basically self-income earnings, because basically what would have happened if you had filed taxes is you would have given your tax accountant your numbers, right? And they would have filed your 2019 tax return based on this exact number. So the government is truly trying to understand how much you need to live on, because really, if you think about it, the taxable net income from your income statement is essentially earnings to you as the business owner, okay? So right now I'm still trying to get some guidance around, do we upload our P&L? Do we upload something? But if you had to upload your tax return, right? So if you guys have a tax advisor, this is a really good time to always be talking to them to say, okay, what have you heard? What are your clients are doing? I'm getting basically advice and information from lawyers, obviously reading, obviously SBA website, but also tax accountants, right? This is your core team, and they're gonna try and help you, right? For those of us that don't file payroll or don't have payroll. Does anybody have payroll, employees on payroll, or yourself on payroll? One, okay. Nobody, okay. If you did, Gusto or your payroll service provider, they are getting really nice and they are actually doing the calculations for you. So if you have friends out there, they're like, what do I do? If you use Gusto, if you use JustWorks, if you use any of these payroll providers, they're actually calculating the average monthly payroll for you, okay? So what's great about this particular loan is that there's no collateral. So meaning you don't have to say, okay, you can give me a loan, but I'm going to give you, my assets for collateralization, which SBA loans typically ask for. Okay. And they're asking for no personal guarantee, which is another thing that SBA usually asks for. They want to know that if you default on the loan, that they're going to get paid back somehow, right? And so there's no personal guarantee, there's no collateral, it's 1% interest rate. And really it's, and you have now until end of June to apply. And so there's all of this rush to apply for sure. If your bank, if you haven't logged in and check your bank account, I doubt that's true, but if you haven't, log in right away, because there's usually some sort of very big banner that says, if you've been impacted by COVID-19, you may be eligible for the payroll protection program. Apply here. Okay, I know Chase is on the top right, Wells Fargo's right on the front page. Bank of America was like this little sign. But anyway, when you log in, obviously they all want to help their customers. This is a time when the bank is super, super important. So I guess maybe we can ask any questions now about this before I move on to the now what portion. Does anybody, Ashley, do you have any questions on your end?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
No worries.
Yeah, so as far as private companies that have 1099 employees, what if we don't have employees on payroll, but
Yes.
just independent contractors?
That's right. So if you are independent contractors or a considered self-employed, they're going to basically apply those through this payroll protection program as well. So right now, when you see the application, you might have seen this paper application float around. Right on the top, there was a check mark for independent contractors. So for those people that are independent contractors, they would apply. It looks like the application for this would be open next week for independent contractors and self-employed. And what they're probably going to use is their 1099 as proof of their actual earnings.
So then does that still entitle them, the small business, to the grant?
Yeah, so those are two different things, right? The grant is to help your business. The payroll protection program is really to protect you as the sole proprietor, because none, or as a small business.
Okay.
And then separately, coming down the line, next week is the individual contractor, independent contractors, and self-employed people who haven't incorporated as an LLC, who are just sort of taking in money. They will be able to apply next week.
Okay.
For themselves.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes,
Hi.
Laura. Hi.
So I have people, like I 1099 people.
Yes.
So would I include that just kind of in a lump with my personal like net income that you were talking about, or how would I?
For you, so basically, so I think everybody in this group do not have W-2 employees, right? So when you're applying for this payroll protection program, if you are an LLC, you would basically consider a sole proprietor. You would only include your, basically what's your income minus all of your expenses. So 1099 would be consider your expense. So the taxable income at the end, and the average of that is what you would be applying for.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Rebecca.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I still qualify for this. I'm a 1099, but I'm also an S Corp. I've started my business a year ago. I did apply for the forgivable loan, disaster relief. Everyone should do that. You're right, it's very easy. But my first year, right, I was in the market for December, January, March, right, of this year. And so I am still showing a loss. So I don't have taxable net income. So I don't think I apply for this, the PPE.
Yeah, because you essentially had nothing to go with. So then you would probably apply based on your last tax return as an individual contractor, right? So and the other thing that I really want to mention is that this is also if there's when you apply, right, there's these certifications that you have to make, which is that your business is truly impacted by the certain market conditions right now. And so, I have some venture-backed companies they're actually not eligible because they have investors who are backing them up, and they may have months. And unfortunately, in your situation, you have to figure out. So basically, if you're showing no next taxable income, it means that you were basically working from a loss standpoint,
Yeah.
which means you're not losing anything, right? You didn't have income to begin with, so you're not having an income to lose at this point. So figure out what's better for you to apply as like basically you would apply under the 1099 as an individual contractor. So where is that loss of income, right? So if your business didn't have anything to go with and you just started this, all of your 2019 tax return would have been based on some other income. I'm assuming because you didn't fund yourself for.
I did fund myself. Yeah. And I'm about to go, chase down money right now. So it's kind of impacting me where I'm,
yes,
I'm a manufacturer, so I'm not able to do work.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Because you're being sheltered in place.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go into what now in a little bit, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really then think about where your income historically came from. If it's not from the current LLC and it's from 1099, that for the majority of 2019 and you've lost that income, then apply as such, right? So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to understand how this has impacted your income and who's actually impacted. Small business owners, independent contractors, sole proprietors. And so the application actually asks you. And so that gets into what now, right? As we know, these programs can take weeks and months to actually process and apply. And we'll see when we get the funding, right? So what I've been hearing is lenders are working with the Treasury Department. The application is up one day, close the next day. Open the next day, close the next day, because you're trying to constantly talk to the Treasury Department. So you might have seen already those that have applied that said, if you have applied, we might need you to go back in and add some more things, because they're constantly trying to work with the Treasury to understand, like, how does this thing actually going to work, right? And so what do we do now from now until we get that money? Because a lot of our businesses have already been in a standstill or impacted in some way. And the first thing I would say is really don't feed into the fear, right? As I read a lot of the questions, it's like, we go straight into panic mode and straight into feeding the fear. And what I always say is that there is an opportunity here, right? And the universe is actually doing us a favor and asking you to look at your business. Where are the potential holes that can be shored up, or where is the opportunity, right? And so let's talk about that. How do we actually take action upon now? I was on another webinar and someone said, the fortune favors the decisive, right? So someone who can actually make a decision very quickly is the one that's actually going to survive this particular time and more, right? So the first thing you should do is get to know your numbers. And this is something, obviously, I coach all the time about knowing where your business stands at all times, and especially during a time like this. So if you don't know your numbers, now is the time to actually get to know them, okay? So what does that mean? So if you still have revenue at this point, right, where are they coming from? Is it one source? Is it multiple source? What does it take to actually service that revenue? And if you don't have revenue, let's start looking at your expenses. So what I want you to do is list all of your expenses from the highest to the lowest, right? And so whether that's looking at if you have QuickBooks, fantastic. go look at those numbers in there. If you have just a bank account, right? Download all those transactions for a month or two and list them from the highest to the lowest. So a lot of times when I work with clients and in QuickBooks, I will always list their financials in the most expensive thing first, which is usually people, and then rent, right? And just go down the list of all the software you use, all the subscription you have, all the things that it takes to run your business. And the first thing is really deciding, what do we need to do right now, right? Right now, we're going to go negotiate every single one of those things. So if you are a physical gym, one of the things that you have is rent. And so when you're applying for the payroll protection program, it's going to ask you what you're using this money for, and you're going to click rent. So that money will hopefully be used for your rent. If you don't have, and then I would literally negotiate with your landlord. If you haven't yet, please do so now, right? They are in true understanding that all of their businesses have been impacted in one way, shape, or form. So with rent, with the payroll protection program, landlords can apply for missed rent, right? So trust that the system is trying to infuse money in all the different areas and making sure that everyone is going to come out of this in some way, shape, or form, okay? But this is such a great way to start knowing what your numbers are, right? Okay, let's see, highest to the lowest. Then really deciding what we really need, and then really then deciding to negotiate for every single one of those things, right? If you carry debt, now is a great time, whether it's credit card loans, call your bank, right? And do something about essentially conserving your cash flow so that you can actually have enough for the next couple of months until this thing is over for now, okay? And the other exercise I really want you to think about is starting from a budget of zero, right? So all of us, start, charging like, oh yeah, I need that for my business. I need this for my business. I need this for business. If we just started at zero again and say, okay, right now, what do I actually need? Right? With potentially no revenue, what do I actually need? Okay. And so really getting to know your numbers, negotiating every single one of those lines, right? Whether it's your landlord, it's your credit card, it's whatever, okay? Then I would really say it's time to, get profitable, right? A lot of us, were running probably very unsustainable businesses that they weren't profitable in the first place, right? So right now, this is your chance to make those businesses profitable now, right? And if you are profitable, I would still go through this exercise and put away the money as a business emergency savings account. A lot of personal finance talks a lot about personal emergency savings. When I work with companies, I also make them have a business one as well, because a lot of us are small business owners. It's hand to mouth, right? What I earn here goes straight to my personal. So we fund those emergency savings and then we fund the business one, right? So that is when something happens to the one source of income that we do have, it doesn't collapse our entire financial picture, okay? And so let's get really real about what that looks like for you. And this is an opportunity to start doing that, right? And if we can do it at this moment where maybe our revenue is cut by 25%, 50%, if we're able to do that right now, then when we scale back up, right? It will have been such an amazing exercise to increase the revenue, but maybe hold the expenses. And then essentially then you're even more profitable as we go, okay? And the last thing I say is really about finding the opportunity, right? A lot of ours have been impacted and we go strict into a frozen mode instead of saying, okay, there are business out there that are thriving under this particular circumstance. And so what I want you to think about is how can your business be recession proof and almost quarantine proof at this point, right? Because what this entire impact has been about is if your business is solely relied on one thing, then this is your opportunity to find that second source, whatever that means. If you're a gym owner, now is the time to do virtual, right? And if you haven't done it and you have the time, right? So whatever excuse we were giving ourselves before, like I didn't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, I don't have the money to do this, I don't have to. Now is the time to find that opportunity and get extremely creative, right? If you had no marketing budget, how can you actually figure out where to make money and how to do that? So if you're, one of the things I keep thinking about, right, is you see now all of these fashion companies are making masks, or all of these gyms are all of a sudden having virtual training programs, right? All of these things, or even like my physical therapist, right, is supporting people through a Zoom. Yes, they can't touch them, and most of their, practices, chiropractor is actually physical touch, but still people need you at this point. So how can you find this as an opportunity to serve them and your community, right? Because I think that once this is such an amazing opportunity to get deep into your community and who they are. So if you have a product or you have a customer, I want you to think about what those people are doing during their 24 hours in a day now, right? And really get super clear about who your customer is and what your opportunity is to serve them at this point. It may be that you come to a point where you're like, crap, my business is not going to survive this. Then this is an opportunity to start that second thing, whatever that is, right? Because that means that your entire lifeline is hinging on one thing. And when that one thing doesn't come through, the entire financial system for yourself collapse, right? That's not a sustainable thing, right? So really thinking about how can you find the opportunity at this point? So maybe you are a photographer and you're like, well, I used to photograph people, in person, but I can't really do that right now because people are scared of quarantine. Well, can you do it from 6 feet away? Can you, virtually help them somehow or teach a course? Or I think we really have to stop thinking about what I can't do and start thinking about what you can do. As I think about, right, even like telehealth is now super on the up, right? DJs, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this D-Nice person who is all over Instagram and has live 8-hour sets of DJing because he's just like, well, I'm at home and there's nothing I can do at this point. So I'm just going to do what I love and hope to serve some people along the way, right? What I want you to really think about though is, how then also, who can you collaborate with, right? And so one of the things I'm really thinking about is who are the partnerships that you want to have with that potentially might have never thought about, really partnering before, right? Different brands or different companies or even different people. Everyone wants to help each other right now. So how can you really use that as a resource and say, you know what, I think our collaboration right now would be fantastic, right? So think about where the opportunities are, right? If you have e-commerce is big right now. If you are a photographer or a video company, guess who needs a ton of marketing materials? All those companies that are really growing during this time, e-commerce companies. Even though they're sheltering in place, they're still shipping because shipping is considered essential, right? So what that means for the business owners is that are on the service side is you have the opportunity to find those people who really need your help. And yes, right now, maybe offer at a reduced rate, offer it fast return turnaround. Whatever it is, there's somebody out there looking for your work, right? And as a small business owner, what is happening right now is you think about the massive amount of layoffs that is happening, right? If you heard the Wing, they just lay off a bunch of their people. A lot of the brands that I follow, they can't survive this environment. They don't feel comfortable charging their customers in such a time. They're actually letting go of a ton of talent that wants to do something, talent that wants to work. So if you ever thought about, oh my gosh, so for me, what does that look like? I've been talking about email marketing for the last 2.5 years since I started my own business. Have I actually done anything? No, right? I've done maybe one email in the last 2.5 years. So quickly I'm, engaging someone who does email marketing, right? And I'm figuring out how can I serve my community in this way and in a way that's digestible for them, right? And so this is the opportunity for me to continue to push that forward, to work on something that, quote unquote, I didn't have time for. But it's really just a reframe of what it is that we have, right? And really what I think about is how we manage during this time is so important from when things come back up, that we can really, what we do right now, we can come back 10 times stronger if we focus on the things that matter to our businesses, right? And so when that revenue pipe starts to open again, not only will we have only one, we have two pipes. Not only do we have, our expenses were super high. Now they're certainly going to be lower. Everyone is willing to work with you to support one another. And I think that is really, for me, the most beautiful thing in the opportunity right now is everybody wants to help each other, especially small business owners, because we're all in it now. If you didn't think that, you had friends or brands that were friends or collaborators, like now you do. Right? Because we're all hit hard and we're all trying to figure out how we're all going to survive this. So, take this as an opportunity to really, what I say is like dig in and figure out like how I'm going to use my time, which is always your greatest resource right now, to have a better financial future, whether that's for your business or personal. So that is what you can do at this point as a small business owner. So I know I probably ran a little bit over time, but happy to open up for questions. Ashley, if you want to start, or if people want to, let's see, chatting, where are you?
Yeah, I don't have anybody sent anything, so I'm not sure if they sent them your way.
Let's see here.
I have a question to clarify something real quick.
Sure, Tom.
So for the SBA and then the PPP loans, right? As you mentioned, there's a lot of third party. For example, if you're I used Fundbox before, and then they have this program you apply through them. Mm-hmm. Is it better to apply through third party or the bank or through the SBA website?
So the payroll protection program, you cannot apply on the SBA site. they don't actually have an application for that. It's through your lender. And what I noticed yesterday as I was applying for this is that they actually ask you questions. Have you applied anywhere else? And so I always say apply through your bank, because your bank it's still a relationship, right? So they can see how much money you have in your bank account. They can see what your profitability has been or not, but they can see your transactions. So there's a sense of comfort when you are applying through your lenders. So from all of my sources, everyone is saying apply through your own bank as a starting point. And so, when applications are down, just wait. Like, as it's one of the question was, what should I be doing at this point? You should be watching your bank account. If that application is open, go ahead and apply. But you can only apply apparently through one lender, and I would always say that you apply through your bank. It's a relationship, and they want to serve their customers, which is you. And a lot of the banks are saying that they want to make sure that all of the applications are processed.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And also just a quick content idea for you. I think this is really helpful what you've talked through, right? I think even just as simple of like an application process, walkthrough, literally recording your stuff, your application. I think that would be super helpful for people who might be like, even though it's like a 5-minute process, like people might be like, I want to see exactly what are the questions, so I can just have it prepared. So I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll actually, there's a paper application that was sort of sent out in advance. And so what I'll do is I'll send that application to you guys, because basically if you apply through your bank, all of your personal information is on there. So I don't know how to record something without hiding all of that information. If anybody wants to help me, I'm happy to do that process. But it asks for all of your business and personal information. So as much as I love you, you don't all want to know where I live. Any other questions? Go ahead, Rich.
All right, so I loved all your ideas for growing, taking this time to expand what you're doing, coming out stronger. Backtracking, I'm a sole proprietor LLC contractor.
Mm-hmm.
I've got multiple revenue streams. So I didn't really know what to do. So far I've signed up for unemployment online with Oregon, seeing where that comes out. Then one of the gyms I work for said they can claim me under their PPE because I'm a contractor with them. And then this other thing's coming out. And then apparently I can apply for a $10,000 grant. I guess I'm just going to do a lot of things and just try to like give back where I need to balance all out in the end, or to see what happens.
Yeah. So basically what it all comes down to, look at your tax return. Okay.
Yeah.
So your tax return really tells you what you are. So if you're collecting a bunch of 1099s, then you're an individual contractor. So originally last week, the idea was that the payroll protection program was going to include their 1099 contractors. That is no longer true. There was a piece of guidance that came out, I think it was Thursday of last week, that particularly said, do not include your 1099 contractors in your PPE application. Because what they want to do is they want those people to apply under the payroll protection program.
They haven't handed that down yet.
Sorry?
My gym hasn't mentioned that.
Because because basically at first it was, and then they had a 4-page document that was a follow-up to the entire CARES Act that spelled out exactly what they are. So for you though, I would look at, have you filed your 2019?
No, not yet. I have it
Okay.
all. I have everything done. I just haven't sent it in.
Is it significantly different than 2018 in terms of the sources of income?
What it would turn out is if I don't file now, between my wife and I, our stimulus check will be different.
Okay.
We made a ton more.
In 2019, but the sources are still, you're still a contractor at the gym.
Everything's the same. She has a new
Perfect.
business or new job, but it's
Look at your 2018 tax return or talk to your tax accountant. So basically, when the way that you file your taxes are different, if you are a small business owner that files as an S corp, if you are collecting all W-9s that goes on a Schedule C, or if you are self-employed and you're just reporting that income. So look at your 2018 tax return.
Yep.
And ask your tax accountant the question, am I filing this as a self-employed? Because you're not, if you don't have an LLC, it means that you're probably not a sole proprietor. Okay. But it's really important to ask your tax accountant, because I can't obviously see your taxes, but basically for just knowing you and talking to you, you're probably going to be considered self-employed, in which you encapsulate all of those sources of income if you have lost all of them, right? So you're not working at the gym anymore, you're not, doing XYZ anymore. All of those is your self-employment income. And so why is it so important to call it to that? Why are they saying self-employed? Is because if you're self-employed, you have paid self-employment income taxes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when people go from W-2 for self-employment and they're like, oh my gosh, why do I owe so much taxes? Is because if you're self-employed, there's an additional tax on top of that. And I bet what they're going to do is they're going to use all of that money on self-employed taxes and return it back to those people through this payroll protection program. Okay, so it's really important to know, it's always important to know how you are incorporated as a company or individual, or, are you an LLC? Are you an LLC with
LLC.
Are you an S corp? Are you it's always important, because if you are a small business or a sole proprietor, you should have a P&L that goes onto your tax return. Or if you're an S corp or LLC as an S1, you have a K1, and that goes on your personal tax return. So there's different, I know there's different definitions. And so your tax return, your tax accountant is the one that knows the answer to all of those, because they have to file based on those categories.
Got it.
Any questions? Any other thoughts that you want to share? No? Silence?
Yeah, wraps it up.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Stacy, for offering these seminars. I really am getting so much out of them, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is, for those that have signed up, we're going to send a link to this. This obviously has been recording, as with all Zooms at this point. We will be sending a link to the video. So if you wanted to watch again, and then I would just say, please do follow me on Instagram and share it with your friends. I am happy to share as much knowledge as I can in these very uncertain financial times. And so next week is going to be all about investing and why it's still important at this point. What does it mean for your 401ks? So I know a lot of people have a lot of questions around, do I still, invest? Do I not? So the sign up is the same place. It's going to be on my Instagram, and it's on my website. So please sign up and share with your friends. I would love to, help and support as many people as I can during this time.